Hi, this is Denise Matthew. Hope you're doing well. I'm back again for another transit report. And before I get into that, I just wanted to say that the mandala of life is still continuing on. It's going well. People are enjoying it. I'm enjoying it. I know I keep saying that, but what I found is interesting is this week, the Gate 63 seems to have a lot of people sort of inspired by what they're actually seeing in the real world. And I think that's pretty cool to see that. The Gate 63 will actually be hanging around for a little bit longer because it's going to be going into, I think, Venus. So I'll talk about that in a minute. The other thing I wanted to mention was I just wanted to add something to the whole transit report. And I thought it would be kind of interesting. I think that what inspired me to do this was because I was thinking about last week where we were talking so much, and it continues even as I speak right now, about the 63 and the logic. And I think that if you look at the logic collective and then you compare it against abstract collective, we talk about the abstract being more of an intuitive type of thing, which isn't as accepted by the mainstream world as, for instance, the logic. I mean, people can easily get inspired by the logic and talk about the patterns of life and those types of things. But then when we get into this sort of mysterious type of things that are mystical in nature, then people may not be so open to those kind of conversations. So to that point, I thought the logic is the transits, because truly the planets are going to be moving in a specific way, and we can always predict where they're going to be based on the patterns and the cycles of each planet. So we know that they will transit each particular gate, and we can always look in advance. So we can look 50 years in advance and know where the planets are going to be 50 years from now. But having said that, intuitively, it would be nice to sort of add that an extra dimension to the transits and say, I'm going to have a pick a card with my HD Oracle guidance cards at the end. Now, if that's something that you're interested in, you can check it out at the end. I will have a timestamp, and it'd be interesting to see. It's an experiment for me. I just want to see how much is going to line up with the actual energy. What extra messages can we potentially get from it? So instead of just saying logic is all that we have, adding the abstract energy to it as well might be something fun to do. So I'll see how it goes. And if you guys like it, let me know. And other than that, let's get started. So for now, right now, as I'm speaking, the sun remains in the gate 63. And again, this is all about logic. Anybody who has the gate 4 as a hanging gate can have an electromagnetic with the gate 63. And anybody who has the full channel, they may feel that as well. Or just anybody in general, you may feel this inspired, because ultimately what we're doing when we have something open is we are taking it in and amplifying it. And it could be energy that you were conditioned on, so you may be more sensitive to it. And condition means you lived in the environment of somebody who actually had this energy defined. And we're just talking about the patterns of life. And I've had a lot of stories this week of people telling me how the gate 63 is played into their daily routine and how it's shown up, and just questions about this, and having inspirations, and having downloads of information, which could even be related to the gate 64, but downloads of information because the gate 64 is in the earth as well. But basically having downloads of information, having questions that have sort of rumbled around in your mind for a very long time, and finally having some answers or something tangible to come out of it. So it has been an interesting journey, and I have to say this has been very, very enlightening for me, and I'm sure for other people as well. So a nice way to check into the patterns and see what's going on. March 7th, we have the sun entering the gate 22. We have been talking about the gate 22 quite a bit, because Neptune has been in the gate 22 for a very long time. I'm just going to go a little bit more into depth of the gate with the gate 22, because it is the energy of the week. So we can see this as it is an individual energy. And when we talk about an individual energy, we're always going to talk about some level of potential melancholy, the melancholy that comes where we just have a shift in our mood, and that we may just automatically start to feel more flat, more feeling of blue, just feeling that you just don't have that motivation, that push, that drive, or maybe you just want to sort of hide away and not be social. That's very common with this type of energy. The gate 22 is the only, based on, it's on from the channel 1222, it's the only social energy of the individual energies. Individual energies by nature are not necessarily social. In fact, if you carry a lot of individual energy, it could be something that people feel like a level of intensity from you, and that's not even something that you're doing. It's just an aura that you give off. So people might be a little bit more I guess on edge around you when you have a lot of individual energy, because it's a different feeling. It's an individual feeling. And when you think about it, if we have based our society on logic and you have a lot of individual energy is like the kryptonite of collective energy, because or especially logic, because what it's doing is it's mutating the pattern. If there's a break in the pattern or something that sort of there's a little issue with the pattern, you get it back on and everything goes well, that's fine. But what happens is the individual energy mutates, comes in and says, oh, let's do a brand new thing that you've never seen before. And this is where the logic kind of can get freaked out, because it's like, we know this pattern. This is a pattern that works. Why should we change this pattern? That type of thing. So you have to, as an individual energy, this is where all the brand new brand new things that we've never heard of come from. This is where what was before completely gets cracked open wide, and we have this extremely brand new type of thing. So we think about, for instance, if you look at when, we before we had iPhones and all that technology, if you had have said, oh, that telephone that you have, the one that you have like dials on, and that it stays in your house and you don't take it with you, well, that's going to go away. People won't have that anymore. Now we're going to have a phone that goes with you all the time. And not only will it be a phone, it'll be a computer. It'll be something you can get all the information with. You can talk to people via this phone as well. But not only will you talk to them via their voice, you'll actually see their face. So think about that back in the day before there was any of this. That's a mutation. It's a massive mutation. And it took a while to actually get out into the world. I mean, I like to talk about Steve Jobs because of this, because his mutation was so massive. It needed a lot of adaptation, a lot of acceptance, where the collective have to adopt it. The collective, our society, the collective of our everybody in the world. We have to adopt something that's individual before it becomes of any value, before it can take, you could say. So we could plant 1,000,000 seeds in a garden and only one will actually grow. And that's what the level of mutation is. So we can plant a lot of different seeds, but it doesn't mean it's going to have anything's going to happen with them. So if it doesn't happen with one, you plant a different one. Does that work? And this is what it's all about. So this mutation is also the most socially friendly of all the individual energies, which I just said, which means that by nature, individual energy is all about the self. It's all about the expression of yourself. It is all about, the key word for individual energy is empowerment. By empowering who you are as an individual, your aura says, I feel good about myself. I love myself. I care about myself. And because people feel that energy off you, they start to shift their patterns as well, because they can feel that vibe, that energy, that good thing. So this individual energy is self motivated and about the self and what makes you feel good in yourself, but it kind of poses as tribal energy, in that you think that there's some level of bonding, because there is this real social component to this energy. It's all about, I'm going to be social with you because it's going to in some way let me express myself with you. And that's what this energy is about, as opposed to like a tribal energy where it's all about, I want to be with you, I want to take care of you, I want to take care of our family. If we have a family, I want to take care of the tribe. It's all about the tribe and being part of a tribe and caring for the tribe. Whereas with the gate 22, it's individual. It's like, I'll be with you as long as I feel good, but when I don't feel good, I'm going to walk. And I've seen this energy in motion. I've seen this energy. I have a son with this energy, and when he decides he's done with a relationship or somebody, he's done. And it could be Valentine's Day and he's done. And so we have to try and say, okay, well, Valentine's Day may not be the day to break up with your girlfriend. So this is, it's a very individually inspired energy, which is all about being social so that you can get this mutation across, that so that you can infiltrate the other the collective and say, okay, this actually works, this is important, let's try and shift the reality. Because by nature, like I said, the collective are could be suspicious, especially when you get into logic about anything new, about anything that hasn't been tried, about anything. So it's all about, prove it, show me that this can work. So This is that type of energy. Now, if you look at the image, you see a swan, and there is a whole story about a swan, and it has, if you also see the suffering part of the grace. The other aspect of this is, and I've talked about it when I talked a lot about Neptune, it really is this idea that you do suffer in grace with a level of grace. And when you do, it adds to this level of strength and beauty to basically teach you. It sort of gives you one more layer of being human that in some way enables you to be a better human being in the world. I think that suffering is not something that we're all going out into the world and saying, oh yes, I wish I could suffer. It unfortunately comes, and when it does, how it leaves, how we are left after it comes is really a definition of who we are as a human being. So we can have some great hardships in our life, and we could be completely bitter and angry and really never wanting to see anything. What value was it for me? I mean, and then there are other people who could have these tremendous suffering, things in their lives that have been impactful and very, very traumatizing in a lot of ways, and yet they come out of it, and they say, okay, well, this happened to me, how can I use that? So if we look at, for instance, somebody who has been, in an abusive relationship or something like that, and eventually they get out, to actually go into some level of counseling so they can help other people who are going through this type of energy. So that's the type of energy we could have with this grace as well. But so that's within the swan image, but we could also look at the perspective of a swan has a family. So a swan will mate for life, and they actually will divorce, though. And it's an unusual thing that the swan will actually mate for life, but sometimes they'll divorce. I mean, there's a percentage of swans that will actually have and I say that in quotation marks because that's a human thing, but it really is this idea that if the nest or the nesting or the offspring are not sufficient, or there's some issue with having offspring or having a nest or something like that, they could have a divorce where they'll separate and they won't mate anymore, and they'll find new partners. So what it says is that you could look at the swan as a tribal energy, and that they mate for life, and that and of course they're animals, they're birds, they're not human, so we can't perfectly put our values and what we are as humans on top of that. But it's just this idea of, you could look at them as being tribal, the family, this whole concept of that, and the idea that they'll actually leave because it's not right for them anymore because of whatever. So then that shows you that the individual energy that looks like it's tribal, and that's what this energy is all about. The gate 22 is individual energy that looks like it's tribal because there is so much level of this social energy, and really somebody who has a lot of charm, somebody who has a lot of grace, somebody who lights up a room when they're in the mood. But if you're not in the mood, it's somebody who can bring down their mood because it could be a very gloomy energy as well because of this melancholy. The key with this energy is always to honor your moods, to honor with what you feel. So if you feel like socializing, then socialize. But if you don't, it's best not to, because if you honor how you feel, you'll have better interaction with people, and people will understand you, and I think that they'll respect you more for honoring your the way you feel, as opposed to going out and just having a terrible time and just feeling miserable and not being able to sort of snap yourself out of it, and because you don't feel like it, and that's okay. I completely relate to this energy. I don't have the 22, but I do have the 12, and I will tell you that if I am put in a situation that I really don't want to be in, it's really hard for me to just suck it up. Actually be put in a situation where it just feels like it's life, it's deflating the life energy from you, and yet you are able to push through it and continue on because you have to, because you need to, and that's more of a tribal energy, where the individual says, I just can't do this. I can't be in a situation where I feel as though I'm oppressed, or I feel in a way that I can't be myself, or those types of things. So this is a type of energy which is a big, powerful energy that we're working with this week. We could see more creative expressions. Maybe you want to be more creative. Maybe you want to socialize more. Maybe you want to find things that make you feel happy. If you have the gate 12, then you might find that there's an electromagnetic, you'll have the whole channel. So it might change the energy as well. Right now, the Earth is in the gate 64. And what I think is really interesting about that is that we had the gate 64, and I talked about it last week, these big downloads and these big sort of confusing downloads, because you don't really know, you get this big idea and you don't have any idea how you're going to bring it into the world. So, and again, this is abstract. This is the exact opposite of logic. Logic is all patterns and this is what happens and this is what we can expect. Whereas with the abstract, it's completely there's no rhyme or reason. There's no this is A, B, C, D, E. It's more of is sort of a floaty energy and that type of thing. And so it does bring some level of confusion because you just don't know what to do with what you've got. But what I think is really amazing is that on March 7th, we have the gate 47 coming in. The gate 47 makes the full channel. So last week, we got these big downloads of these things that we wanted to do, but we really didn't know what to do with it. This week, we have the gate 47, which is the match energy. And the match energy says, okay, we had this big download. How are we going to make this happen? So this is, like I said, panning for gold, finding the nuggets of gold amongst all the stones. Or you could find the wheat amongst the chaff. So you're literally pulling out the things that matter, the things that will make something happen, so that you can actually take it from just being an inspiration in your mind into something that we can actually do something with, that we can actually make something with. So we have the energy giving this to the download. And now this week we have the energy of trying to sift through it and figure out what exactly can we do with this energy. The other thing about the gate 47 is they say it's a gate of mindset. So if you have this energy, especially in an area where it's quite prominent in your chart, and even if it's not, I feel that you can still feel this energy. There is this level of trying to, like, I'm not one of these people that are all about just positive thinking and just, forget any negative thought you've ever had in your life. And you can't have anything other than positive thinking, because I think that there is balance in all things and you can't have one without the other. And so that's not what I say. But in this respect, I say it's more about being open to something showing up, even if you don't imagine or expect that it can show up. So it's this idea that, if you look at the image, the little girl is looking at a house, and on one side it looks really bright and something that might be inviting, cozy, warm. The other side, it's dark and it may be scary. So which side is she going to believe the house is? Is it the bright, inviting area, or is it the dark, gloomy, scary area? And so that's all about mindset. Which kind of side of the coin is she going to settle on? And truly, as soon as we have an expectation of something, a mindset of something, it colors our experience. It always does. And this is, again, experience, because it is of the collective energy. So it colors how you perceive things. So if you expect something to be horrible, well, there's more of a chance that you will actually have that prophecy realized. I say prophecy basically as, in quotation marks. That prophecy will be probably what you think it is, because you've already set out the parameters of your expectations. I always like to look at this as there's a story about, and this is actually a true story. Somebody was waiting for a bus at an airport, and they just kept complaining that it wasn't coming. It's never going to come, blah, blah, blah. The bus came up behind them, stopped, people went on it and left, and the person never saw it, because all they could see was all the bad things in their life. They could only see that it was never coming. They could only see that it would not serve them that day, and so many other negative things. There are people who have this energy who always are gloomy, who always are just they just can't really see beyond negativity in the world. And so this is why it's important, especially just to even play with this energy and okay, I may not be positive, but am I open? And I think that if you can even get to the point where you feel open to have something that you didn't expect to, and really feel neutral about it, as opposed to good or bad or positive or negative, then it can really work to your advantage in that Mercury respect. Is now in the gate 49, and the gate 49, it already has been in here. I believe it's still in its shadow, and which means it's already passed through this energy. Mercury won't get into any new energy, I think, until the 16th of March. So we're revisiting the energy of basically February, because that's when Mercury went retrograde. So this is potentially bringing up some old themes that were started in February, or when it was transiting, when the Mercury was transiting the gate 49 and also the gate 30, because those are both of the same energy. And then eventually it will go to the gate 55, which is a brand new energy, and that will be on the 16th. And I will talk about that next week. But this is all about these revolutionary ideas, and really talking about how can we do something different? How can we support the tribe? I think that's a huge, huge theme right now, trying to clean up after all the trouble that we've experienced. And then we also have, just lately, the last month, we think about, for instance, we could be revisiting the concept of when we had those huge weather patterns that caused so much trouble in places like Texas and Mississippi, and all those places that are not used to the cold. I mean, the whole power grid going down. To think about those kind of ramifications for the people. So the story here is there could be this revisiting of what exactly are we going to do for the people? What are we going to do to support them? And if we are not supporting them, what are they going to do? It's like this. We have, as we always talk about, the tribal energy it's all about this idea that we need a certain thing to keep alive. We need certain, not even luxuries. We need these things that are part of what it is to be human. You need food, you need shelter, you need the basic needs of your life. You need those. And when those are not being given to you, or they're not accessible to you, then what are you willing to do? If you don't have heat in your house and you don't have water in your house, how are you going to survive? If it's cold outside and you have no heat and you have no water, how are you going to survive? And you have no power, how are you going to survive? So these are all these things that people are talking about, saying, okay, these things happen. We need to be able to support the people. We also remember that Saturn is still in the gate 19. So now Mercury's back in gate 49. So that means we have that emotional energy attached to it again, because we have the full channel. So this is when things are starting to really start to shake up and say, we need to take care of the people. So that will be in until March 12th. And then we get to the gate 30. And this is about this holding on. This is an intense energy. This is about holding on to this change, these ideas for change. And it would connect to the gate 41, which is all about the initiating codon, these new things that we want to bring into the world. So holding on to the right things and letting go of the things that are not worthwhile. This is all about, if you hold on to the wrong things, then it's not going to work to your advantage. And this is deciding what you want to hold on to and what you want to let go of, and seeing what is worth your time and what isn't. So this is like, basically, you could say, people not getting over stuff. And I think that what this is finally doing is, with Mercury, it's like, it seems like we've had so much sort of holding on to the same rhetoric, holding on to the same stories of, you are not the same as me, and that's just the way it is, and we're never going to see, and because you believe in this particular uh, idea of whatever, then you're not my friend. And not getting beyond these opinions and these thoughts and these concepts of somebody, and not seeing them for, we are all more than what we believe. There's so much more to us as human beings. And I think that sometimes we get so wrapped up in, oh, well, you're this particular party of political party, so you're not the same as me. And that's just the way it is. And I don't care what you have to say, because you're the opposite party, you must be like this, and this. And so this is where we're finally letting go of what doesn't serve us. Those spins of, again, this is media. This is, Mercury is all about media, the things we're hearing, the way people are talking. Either you're going to hold on to the same old tired story, or you're going to finally let it go and move into something that's worth holding on to. And that's what this energy is all about. And again, it makes a lot of sense, because it is the ending of the Mercury retrograde, where we are just sort of finishing up with this spin on exactly what was happening. And these were themes that were important for 2021, because Mercury did actually go over that energy a couple times, and there will be other themes because Mercury goes retrograde 3 times in the future that we'll be going over. So those will be the important themes that will be talked about more, that we will have more focus on as a society. Right now, Venus is in the gate 63. We talked a lot about what it means. So this could be about people being doubtful of women in the that we're hearing about. And I think that there's this big if we're thinking about doubting women, there's a big interview coming up, I think, with Oprah and Meghan Markle, and also Prince Harry. And I would say that if anything, I've heard a lot of doubt about if she's telling the truth, if Meghan Markle's telling the truth, and really a lot of people coming out on both sides. So I think that this is going to be something that we're going to see a lot more of. Are women telling the truth about things that they're saying? And this prove it to me type of thing. And whether that's true or not is yet to be seen. But again, this could be this kind of looking at women with a side eye and saying, yeah, I don't know if I believe you, what you're doing or what you're saying, or that type of thing. Or it could be potentially believing them based on, you had all the other perspective of doubt is always the idea that you get enough facts and information that you start to believe what they're telling you. So let's see how that works out. March 11th, we have Venus going into the gate 22. So it's going to join the sun. And again, this is all about the same things that I talked about with the sun, and just with a feminine perspective. So we're talking about maybe more socializing with more women, socializing with more of the feminine energy. In the most basic facts, we could see more women who carry this energy out in the world showing up, and we're talking about them and seeing them out there. It could be that we're seeing more grace of with people, with women, and that type of thing. It could be maybe we're seeing more things that we would consider graceful. So we could say that somebody is showing, because when you get into Venus, we can talk about all the beauty perspective of things, and how people show up and how they dress, because the gate 22 can be somebody who dresses very specifically and very noticeably, in that you see them and you go, wow, they look amazing, they look beautiful, they look very stunning or striking. And so we could see maybe people coming out with new fashion or new beauty products, or some level of being showing that grace, or even new dancing or things like that. So that's what we could see coming up in this week. Right now, Mars is in the gate 20. We talked a lot about that last week. It will change on March 14th to go into the gate 16. We know that the gate 20 is really about trying to be in the present moment instead of trying to rush forward, and trying not to just grab at anything that comes your way because you want something new. This is an individual energy as well. So it comes with this level of wanting to be yourself, wanting to show what you have to show the world, and maybe just shoving out maybe aggressively showing what you want to show, aggressively putting yourself out into the world. This is charisma too. So it could be charismatic masculine energy, or energy of, it's not necessarily, it doesn't have to be men or that type of thing, but just like this more of rugged type of charisma. This somebody who doesn't hold back. They're not very soft in the way they speak. They're very, very rugged in how they speak. They're very I guess you could say raw and assertive, and maybe sometimes even aggressive in how they speak, and people saying, wow, that's, that looks good, and that person makes sense to me, that type of thing. March 14th, as I said, we're moving into brand new energy, into the gate 16, which is the gate of skills, gate of enthusiasm. This is all going back to the collective energy. So we're moving out of the individual energy of, let me show you who I am, Mars, right? Mars is about a lot about I anyhow. So it's going to be happy with the gate 20. It's going to be happy showing off the individuality and saying, this is who I am, that type of thing. Now we're moving into the gate 16, and this is more of a logical perspective. This is logically pushing to show more skills, to show more. And so what it looks like to me is that there is potential for us to start to look at, what can I learn? What are some new things that I can learn to do? Maybe I don't feel like I have enough skills. Maybe I don't feel like I have enough things that I'm good at. This is part of the 1648 channel, which is all about the channel of talent. So this talks to the idea that you're trying to build up your talent. You're doing different things, or you're doing a particular skill, but you're doing it over and over and over again until you actually build up some level of mastery, some level of talent. And that's what that energy is all about, because anything logical, it's a repeated pattern that you're going to continue to do. This could be getting these types of skills, Martian skills. It could be working with fire, like making jewelry. It could be working with working with anything military. It could be going to boot camp. It could be anything where you're doing that sort of active kind of martial energy, where you're getting some level of mastery and skills, and sort of a repetition, and you're doing it with this sort of energy of excitement and feeling really happy doing it. So you're grabbing onto these new skills. Even surgeons can come into the whole Mars perspective as well, but it could be just the idea that you're actually trying to actively look for some new skills that you really want to add to your tool belt and bring into your everyday life. And it could be that you just jump in and do a few things, new things that are sort of some things that you've been thinking about, and you finally do it, and you decide, is this something that I want to stick with, or is it just something that I'm just going to jump in and jump out? Because the thing about the gate 16 is it is about something that you can jump into something, get a little bit of experience, and then jump out and you're done with it. So that's the potential there. You might stick with it if you really like it, but this is really kind of testing the water. The gate 48 is where you're getting right into that water. So the gate 16 could be like, put your toe in the water. The gate 48 jumps in and never comes out until they've got, well, if they can, until they have basically every bit of what they can find out in that water, they'll finally come out. And even then, sometimes they won't. So Jupiter remains in the gate 13 again. Big information, big secrets, things coming to fruition. Now we get to line 6 of any energy of any gate. We're always getting to an energy where you have this idea that you're looking to the next gate. Now, the next gate here is the gate 49. As we can see, that Jupiter is going to be finally going into the gate 49 on March 11th. But what this is saying is that you're finally getting to the point where you've sort of learned the lesson, and this is where you always want the ultimate experience, and it does come in the 3 levels of where you're learning. So in the first of any 6 line energy, in the first 28 to 29 years, or up to your Saturn return, you might have experienced a lot of this energy, in that you're testing every bit of it out as much as you can. And then once you get over that sort of part, you're like very discerning about what kind of energy you're willing to take. The funniest one of this is that I love this one, the 59-6, and I laugh about this because I have the 59-6, and they call it the one night stand, and which a lot of people get very put off with, and I can understand that, because it is quite of in your face kind of a comment, or a name for a gate. But if you look at the perspective, it is like this idea that for the first 28 to 29 years of your life, you're bonding with a lot of different people. You're meeting a lot of different people. You could be going on a lot of different dates. You could have a lot of romantic interests, or that type of thing. But then once you hit that sort of I think Ra said about 25 years old. Then he said that that's when you start to really be discerning about who you're going to bond with, who you're going to be intimate with, who you're going to sort of take into your tribal network, or you could say. So that's the important thing to remember about this energy, is that you do a lot of experimenting in the beginning, and then you eventually decide that I only want the ultimate experience, and only that will suffice at that point. This is where we look at the gate 13, and we are already looking into going towards the 49. The key here is to see the stories that we're hearing, sort of more of a high level story, more inspiring stories that uplift us, that make us feel good, but also stories about, as I was talking about, if we look at the gate 22, when I was talking about the grace and finding the grace in everything that happens to you, and seeing that the suffering wasn't just to suffer, there was something more to it, or something that was learned at the very least. So basically it's saying that when we move in the gate 13 to the gate 49, we're saying that the suffering of humanity, what can we see? What are the things that we can find that are worthwhile for us to know about? The things that actually will shift our reality to maybe change the way we look at the world because of these stories that maybe were not the most happy stories, but yet in the end they changed us in a way that we hadn't expected to ever be changed. And that's what the Jupiter in the gate 13 in the line 6 is talking about. Then it's moving into the gate 49. This is actually going to, as I said, we already know that uh, Mercury is going to be in the gate 49, which will make an emotional channel between the 1949, but now we have Jupiter getting in there. So now we really have a lot of push that says we need to get these people taken care of, because if we don't, things are going to go bad. And that's ultimately what this story is all about. This is an emotional energy. Take care of us, make sure that we have what we need. And this is pushing really hard. So we have Saturn saying, we will support you, we will give you what you need, as long as you're asking for the right things. And then the gate 49 saying, well, if you don't do it soon, because Jupiter is a big energy, an expansive energy. It's like, Jupiter wants to go fast, and Saturn wants to take it all a slow time. So this could be a push and pull saying, give us what we need, get this fixed, because we are emotionally connected to the idea that you are going to take care of us. And this is very tribal energy. So it could be some impactful energy that we're really starting to see some shifts in that, especially when we have Saturn in the line 2 and 3. Saturn in the line 2 is all about being of service. So again, this is the gate 19. I will go and be of service to support the revolution, to support the people that need what they need. And when we're talking about the revolution, we're talking about the beginning of it. We're building a foundation, and we're not exactly sure what we're revolting against, or it's not even that we're not sure about what we're revolting against. It's really more about we're not sure of how we're going to go about it. So that we're just collecting all this energy. But then there are people that are saying, okay, Saturn is like, okay, we need people of service to do this. And sometimes the line 2 is about you being you are decided for, you were told, voluntold, you will be of service because we think you'll do well with it, because it is a projection energy. And the gate, when we get to line 3, it's like deciding who is worthwhile in your life, who is going to actually support you, and anybody who isn't, you're going to get rid of them. So there's a lot of this energy and this emotional energy of who's really got my back, who doesn't have my back. And also this idea that you should be of service to the revolution, this impetus of pushing people to actually have more action. And if you want to change, you're going to need to work and make this change happen. So this is the kind of energy that could potentially be floating around. The nodes remain the same. They're moving to the line 4. We always know that the 4 is all about a more fixed energy and influential energy. So it's all in those same themes. So we know that when we have the gate 35, and the gate 35 is going to be more of a fixed idea of how your experiences look, about how your progress looks, about the things that you're actually going to decide to put your time into. And with the gate 5, it's all about a fixed perspective on how you're going to be patient, how you're going to wait, how you're going to see the patterns of life. And it's always going to be some level of, this is the way it looks like for me, and I don't really want to change. So this could be more of a digging the heels in. We're talking about abstract collective energy, and we're talking about logical collective energy. And so different themes completely about how we want the things to happen in the world, and how things are shifting. Uranus is moving into gate 24, line 1. The interesting thing about the gate 24 in line 1 is that we're talking about this energy of an individual energy. So we're moving completely out of a tribal energy, because it was in the gate 27 for a very long time, caring for the people, caring for the tribe, revolutionary ways of caring for the tribe, and how we could shift up the reality so that they're cared for and nurtured, and take in all the tribal things that we need to do to survive as a human race. Now we're moving into individual energy, and this is all about wanting to bring something new and innovative to the world. The thing about the returning is that we need something that makes sense. We're talking about Uranus, which is by nature rebellious, far-reaching ideas, something new, things that we haven't seen before. And the gate 24 says, in order for me to individual energy, make it something that's part of the collective, part of society, we need something that's going to actually be rational, something that's going to make sense, something that's going to be worthwhile. Because if it's not worthwhile, it's not going to be adopted. It's just going to be ignored. You're going to just, it's going to completely fall flat. So this is the energy where we're starting to look at how can we bring something brand new and bring it into the world that has never been before, and how can we convince it. And so also there's always this question of going back in time, going back and and checking to see that it hasn't been done by somebody else. This could be going back to the same thing. Have other people done this? If they have, then I don't want to do it. Those types of things, and allowing it to flow and not stopping your process, but also having an idea of making it in a way that it can be used. There is a rational reason for it to be adopted into the collective, other than it's not this esoteric thing that can never really have any value into the collective. There's also this, when we talk about Uranus energy, we're talking about rebellion. Could we be rationalizing rebellious energy, rationalizing pushing against the system? We do also have the 1949. So this is only adding extra energy to this concept of, we're not going to take this anymore. We're going to rebel. We're going to push. We're going to do some sudden and unexpected things that nobody has seen before, because we're just tired of the way things are. So that could be rationalizing bad behavior. So these are the types of things. But ultimately, the most important thing with this is trying to get the mutation into the collective, trying to come up with something that makes sense, something that the collective can adopt, can use in their process. And that's the ultimate best use of this energy. Neptune remains in the gate 22. We talked a lot about the gate 22 already. And remembering that Neptune is always about the veil. So a lot of times we will not really know the energy of what this is actually bringing to the collective until it actually moves out. And when Neptune moves out, then we might be able to see a little bit more about exactly what this energy is all about, based on how Neptune has sort of veiled the energy. And big date coming up on the 16th, and I will talk about that next week, and that will be when we move into the gate 60. And it's very interesting that with the gate 60, Ra Uru did talk about the gate 60 and what an impact that when Pluto moved into the gate 60 was going to be a very impactful time in the world. Again, this was when USA was built. It was built on the gate 60, Pluto and the gate 60. So it's interesting. It is this hitting against the limits and saying, let's transform the limits, not let's do something different. And let's talk about that next week and see what we can figure out. And it will start to unfold in the big world, and we'll be able to see. I mean, Pluto is where we will see the biggest transformations. They take time, but it's where the biggest transformations can come to the actual limitations of the gate 60. Now we have Chiron finally moving into a new energy. It moves into the line 5, and no man is an island, which is all about this idea that there could be this frustration. So when we're talking about Chiron, we are talking about a wounded energy. It's about the wound that we can't heal in ourselves, but we can somehow, by helping other people, heal it for ourselves, or make it a little bit more easy for us to cope with. So when we talk about the gate 17, when we talk about the gate 17 in line 5, we're talking about the highest energy, the highest expression of this energy, the most exemplified, the universalization of the energy, because everything that's a fifth line is always about the universalization of an energy. So when we talk about it in this respect, we're talking about this idea that even though we may want to, this is logic, right? So even though we logically may want to do everything ourselves, it may not be logically feasible. It may not be feasible because we can't do everything ourselves. And even if we always want help, we may not get the help we want. So this is standing where you are and understanding that sometimes you need to get help from other people, and sometimes you can do things on your own. But ultimately, in order for us to work as a collective, because this is collective energy, we need to at some point have help from other people. And this is accepting that, especially if you're somebody who is not somebody who likes to have help. I mean, if you're a single definition manifesting generator or a single definition manifestor or something like that, there's a good chance that you're not going to want people to help you, because you basically, based on human design, you have it all the energy there. That doesn't mean you might not want people, but there's a good chance that you may not. Maybe you're happy to be in your own flow and to not have people there. But this is to understand that at some point we all need somebody to be there with us, no matter how strong, no matter how smart, no matter how well equipped we are. There are points in our lives that we just can't push that truck out of the mud. We need 2 or 3 people to help us to do that. So this is the energy that we're talking about with this week with Chiron, and going forward for quite a bit, because it moves quite slowly. So we have pile 1, pile 2, and pile 3. So you can pick which pile you want to pick, and then you can just hit the timestamp. So this is for pile 1. So if you pick pile 1, cards you got are the gate 51, 33, and also 46. So what this is talking about is that there could be some things happen this week that are going to surprise you, that you're going to really, it could shake your foundation of your expectations. And when we talk about the gate 51, we're always talking about something, we could even talk about Uranus, Uranian energy, a something sudden that shows up in your life that you never expected that would come in. Now, you also have to remember there is a rainbow behind the tornado, or so what happens is the gate 51, or the energy of the shock, comes in. It shocks you in a way that you're never really the same afterwards. And how you change can it can, going forward, it can change your whole reality, or it could be something that just kind of shocks you and makes you change the path that you're taking, or something like that. When we put it against the gate 33, this is all about the energy of looking back, but it also is about this idea of historical stories. So the stories that you tell about yourself, and then we have synchronicity. So I like these cards together, because what it says to me is that I see that you have this, well, you could say something that really shakes you to the foundation, shakes you to the core. But then you look at where you've been in your life, and you sort of kind of draw on the reserves of where you've been, what you have in your life, and you say, I've done this before and I can cope with it. Or you use stories from the past, or you use something from the past as a touchstone to take you through whatever has happened, so that you can get through it, or use those tools that you have in your tool belt to actually push you through, to allow you to be okay with this, to get through to the other side. And every time we have shock, like I said, it is something that will shift you, and a lot of times will shift your reality, shift the way you look at things, change the whole way you see things. This is something that isn't there to harm you or hurt you. This is something that tells you, pay attention. There's something in your life that you need to pay attention to, and it's important that you do it now, because it will help you to move on to something else. Now, if you can think about this, gate 51, or 51 in general, connects, the match card would be gate 25, or card 25. Card 25 is all about the love of spirit. So really, we do get the shock, but it is to push us into loving the spirit, and also loving the self as well. So this is telling you something that will shift you, but usually there's a good reason for it to happen. And then at the end, we have serendipity, the gate 46. The gate 46, or card 46, is all about being in the right place at the right time. This is all about being balanced. This is all about taking care of yourself. But what I see in this, I really do feel like whatever happens, in the end, it will put you in the right place at the right time. And I would even say that could bring you some level of good things that could come out of this in the long run. It may not feel like that in the beginning, but remembering where you've been, things that have gone on in your past, and those types of things can help you to push through, and to understand that you, at the end of it, it will be okay, and you will be in the right place at the right time at that particular moment. If you pick pile 2, the cards are the 19, the 52, and the 48. So the first thing we see is, we know right now Saturn is in the gate 19. So we know that Saturn could be having to do with this reading. When we talk about Saturn, we're talking about limitations. We're talking about this idea of going slow, taking your time. Now we know that sensitivity, or is always about this support of basically the revolution, but it can be somebody who's potentially sensitive. It could mean that you sometimes get lost within if you're in a relationship, you might get lost within that relationship and become so entwined in the relationship that you forget who you are. We look at card 52 and we look at the stillness of the 52, but we also see that this is where we see the big picture, but we don't see the small details of life. And then we get into card 48 and we just talk about this whole depth. What this really tells me is that there could be some sort of a relationship where you could potentially be so involved in this relationship, so lost in this relationship, that you're not actually seeing the whole picture. You're not actually seeing all the things that are going on. And what this is saying is look a little deeper, look into something, because is it that you're losing yourself within this relationship, and when you lose with yourself within the relationship, you lose the big picture of your life. You're not looking at the big picture of where you're meant to go because you're so connected to this relationship that you're not actually being your own person, doing your own thing, and allowing yourself to grow and do all those types of things. So it's really about looking in the depth and finding out. Now, we could say that the gate 48 or the card 48 can be a fear card, fear of not knowing enough. And this could also play into it too. Maybe you're in a relationship that you feel powerless and you feel like you are in that relationship and yet you feel like you can't be outside of that relationship. Maybe you can't be on your own outside of that relationship. But what this says is that you probably have a lot more going on than you think you do. And even if you don't, you can make plans to actually decide to change that, to change your relationship. And that's by looking at the gate 52, you're looking at the big picture, but yet you're not looking at the small details. And that's the most important thing right now, is I think to look at the small details of the situation, see where you can go with it, and see how that works out for you. And that's what I get for that pile. Pick pile 3. Oh, isn't that interesting? Well, that's really funny. Pile 3, if you haven't listened to the transits, you might want to look at them, because you have literally every card that's been talked about for the whole for the transit report. So I think that's pretty interesting how they all came out. So basically we're talking about the listener, we're talking about doubt, and we're talking about mindset. So what this is telling me is that what are the stories that you tell about yourself? What are the stories that you're hearing that are making you feel a certain way about yourself? Because what it talks about is that you have some level of doubt of who you are, what you can do, what you can bring to the world. The other thing is that could be this idea of looking at not at the bright side of things. I would say, like when we get with the doubt and we get with the 47, which can be mindset, which is this level of when you're not looking at when you're always looking at the rough side of life and not seeing that there's anything positive. And is that happening? Could this be the case where you're not seeing the good? And it all, to me, it all comes back to yourself, because we see this little caterpillar here, and this little girl is telling the story that to the caterpillar that one day you can be a butterfly if you believe it. And then we have this doubt that says, no, I don't believe that I can be a butterfly. So ultimately, the butterfly is just a symbol. The butterfly is you having a metamorphosis of some kind of part of who you are. Is it that you don't love yourself enough? Is it that you have a lot of doubts about who you are, what you can do, what you can bring to the table? If you're not doubting yourself, are other people doubting you? And if that's the case, is it only making your mindset even more against yourself, and that you're not believing in yourself, and you're not saying that you can do the things you need to do? And what I would say is that, try to look at the things that you're telling you, the stories that are going through your mind, the little voice in your head that tells you, I can't do this, I can't do that, I'm not that, that's not who I am, those types of things. Maybe look at those stories and see, are they true? And right now, this is a time to get the answers. This is a time that you can get the answers to that doubt, to figure out exactly what it is that you can do, where you want to go in your future, in your life, because I think that there's a lot of this life energy about trying to figure out where you want to go and what you want to do, and I guess the next brick in your path of life that you want to take, where you want to lay that. And but this kind of feeling like, can I really do it? Can I really do it? And I think that the answer is yes, you can, if you can put that little voice in your head, tell it to be quiet, and just make those small steps to do what you want to do, and try and hold on to, at least, like I said, if you can't keep it on the positive side, at least keep it on the neutral side. Be open to what the universe gives you, and not necessarily that you, like I said, you don't have to be positive, but try not to be on the negative side, but try at least be in the neutral side. Then at least you're kind of in the middle, and you're not going to have to go very far to start to shift the mindset. But at least when I say when you're in the neutral, it's all about just being open to what the universe will provide for you, and sort of being just allowing the universe to show up the way it's meant to show up, to give you the things that you're meant to give. And yet, yes, it says that you are meant for bigger things if you'll only allow yourself to believe. And if you don't, then yeah, you can always write your own story. Like, ultimately, we can always write our own story. We can always be in the same place and not move because we've decided to not move, to not take opportunities, to not try to shift some reality in our lives. Sometimes there's obstacles, sometimes things are a lot hard, but it's, if you're really dedicated to trying to move at least somewhere different, to try and improve your life in some way, the universe responds ultimately, and that's what I think it is. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed it. And I will be back next week, and I hope you guys all have a super week, and take care. Bye for now.